Hey, Team Impact. We're moving on to lesson 3 in our data and statistics packet. If you're absent, you're watching this. So it's student handout 3. It's measures of variability. So it's going to be some new stuff today for you. So buckle up and hold on. Variability is something that's pretty important in math. Okay, it just talks about how things are going to be spread out. So let's get into some vocabulary and get into some problems and take it from here. We may spend a couple days on this IQR stuff, just depending on how things go. So, a measure of variability is a way of describing how spread out the data is. It can also be described as how much data deviates from the center. Deviates, Deviates, deviates from the center. All right. The range is a measure of variability. Range, I talked about that yesterday in class. That represents the spread of the data, and it can be found by simply determining the least or the smallest and the biggest or the greatest values. And what are we going to do? We're going to subtract them. Okay, subtract them. So finding the range is pretty easy. We just have to identify. Okay. All right, so let's take a look at number 1. Find the range. So we're looking for the greatest number. I see 396. I don't see anything bigger than that. So it's 396 minus the smallest number, 241. Would you agree with that? And I'll circle it. Minus 241 is 155. So 155 is our range. And that just tells us the spread of the data, the spread from the smallest number to the greatest number. And this data set is 155. Let's go again. Okay, usually the hardest part about this is finding the biggest and smallest numbers, kind of going through them. All right, first up on this one, I have 176 as the biggest, 176.97, and the smallest looks to be 57. Oops, 57.06, 1, 9, borrow, 9, and that's a 5, so that's 1, 1. And that answer is going to be, and it's money, $119.91. From the biggest number to the smallest number, there's 119. Number 3, the Jonas family read the evening. What is the range of the data, right? The range. Big number 246 minus small number is 98. And we end up with 184. Last one, okay. What is the range? Big 189. Smallest number looks to be 19. Is 170. So I'll go ahead and circle those up. So again, just the range, all right, is a measure of variability that shows us how far the data is spread out. Big minus small. I talked about that with the measure of centers. They've kind of deviated from that. Now they've gone a different direction with that, meaning that usually when we taught this, it was median, mode, and range. All right, now we're breaking it up a little bit. Okay, so shouldn't be too bad there. Let's continue on. The interquartile range, and I'll bring this up just a tad, all right, or what we call IQR, is a measure of variability that splits the data into 4 equal sized quartiles. It represents the middle 50% of the data. All right, middle 50%. So, how do we find the IQR or interquartile range? Well, we're going to order the data from least to greatest. Okay. And that's important. Okay, you use this to find the median and the interquartile range. So when we're talking variability or measures of center, go ahead and organize your data. Then find the median. Okay, nothing new. Find the middle number. Remember, if there's two middle numbers, we add them up and divide by 2. Finding the median of the lower half and the upper half, all right, are called quartiles. Quartiles. Okay, quartile. So a quartile, quarter, we're going to split it into 4 quarters. All right, so think of it that way, quarters, quartiles. And then we're going to subtract to find the IQR. All right, so just a little vocabulary to chat about it. Now, let's kind of apply what we have here. Okay, so let's flip it over here. All right, excuse me. All right, next up. So the data set below represents the different costs of cameras at an electronics store. All right, so it's asking us first off to organize least to greatest. Third, 28, 36, 44, 59, 66, 71, and 108. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We're in good shape. Okay, what is the minimum price? The minimum is the smallest. Minimum, smallest. It's 28. What is the maximum? Maximum is the biggest. It's 108. Okay. What is the median? Well, let's find the median. And since there, we had, what do we have, 7 numbers? Since there's an odd number here, we're going to have a true median. So there it is. The median is 59. Okay, nothing is different. Pretty easy stuff. Okay, so the first thing that's new here is finding the median of the first half of data. So this is what we consider the first half of data. We don't use the median. We come to the left of it to find the median of the first half. So I start here and here, and 36 is what we call the first. All right, the first quartile. So that would be 36. Okay, and then to find the third quartile, we don't use 59, but we come over to here, 66 and there it is. So here's the third quartile. Okay, now you can call this the second or the median, but we've split this into 4 equal groups if you look at it that way. How do we find the interquartile range? Well, range tells us to subtract. So what we're going to do is take the third and subtract the first. The third minus the first. Okay? And when we take the third minus the first, we end up with 35. Okay? Okay. So they ask a question. Is the IQR relatively small or large? And what does this tell you about the spread of the data? Okay. So what this really tells us is the IQR is $35, which means that the middle 50% of the data is within $35. Okay. So the middle 50%. So when we talk about the middle 50, we're talking about this right here. This middle 50% from here to here is within $35. This is the interquartile range. This looks inside the data set. If we wanted the range, we would take the big minus the small. Here is the interquartile range, or IQR. All right, so middle 50% is within, it's within $35, right? Okay, makes sense? Let's try that again. Okay. The data set below represents Raven and her friends made scores at made bowling. Least to greatest. 75, 80, 90, 90, 100, 105, 110, 110, there's two of those, and a 115. And you'll notice I'm really slow in doing this because I have to be very deliberate. And then I count 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Because if I miss any numbers here, it's going to be an issue. Okay. All right. So the minimum score is certainly 75, right? The maximum is certainly 115. The median, well, we had an odd number, so we should have a true median. Okay, and let's find the middle number, and there it is. I always like to put an arrow there, so the middle number is 100. Okay, and the median of the first half is, we have two numbers here. See, I started at 90 and 75, and I went there. So what we're going to do is take 80 plus 90 and get 170. And then we're going to take 170 and divide it by 2, which is 85. So the first quartile is 85. Let's go to the third. Now, some of you say, well, I don't really need to add those up and divide by 2 because there's nothing in between 110 and 110. So this is pretty simple. We'll just write 110 down. Okay. Now, the interquartile range, all right, is really simple to find. You take the third minus the first, 110 minus 85, okay? And we end up with 25. Now, what does that tell us again? It tells us very simply that, all right, the interquartile ranges tells us that the variability of the data, the spread of the data from the first to the third is 25 points. And look at that, 85 to 110. So 50% of the data is, all right, is spread out by 25 points, is spread out by 25 points. Okay. And welcome to Measures of Variability. We flip it over. You'll see the homework. Make sure you're reading the directions. Make sure you label. Take your time. Always count and make sure you have the correct numbers in your data set. Have a good day, guys.